Hi, everybody. Well, look at us. We did it after some technical issues. Hey, listen, you're not a tech expert when you're middle aged like me. We finally have liftoff. Sorry, we're about a half an hour late, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you and to welcome back to my show. I think we were supposed to be on his show, The Warning, with Steve Schmidt, Mr. Steve Schmidt, ladies and gentlemen, who looks incredibly bronze. You're Canada half the year, Florida the other half. Jealous, I gotta tell you, you're wearing like a Hawaiian shirt. You look all caramel.
Usually in California, but this year down in the Keys. Um, Down in the Keys, and
Mhm.
it's nice down here. It doesn't feel like Florida, which is a good thing. Keys are like the anti-Florida.
For those of us whose only, Florida MO is watching, I think it's the Palm Beach members only on. It's like
Uh,
Real Housewives of Palm Beach. I don't know if you've seen it. Is it like that, or is it more hippies and Hemingway?
No, like the Keys are hippies, Hemingway, like good people. I mean, the rest of the state's just so seedy, right off the
Yeah.
coastline. It's ugh.
Ugh. Yeah, Florida, the Panhandle. It's got some seedy spots to it.
the
It's like half
the
vacation
MAGA
land.
capital,
Yeah,
the
it
MAGA
really is.
capital.
I'm amazed every time I watch anybody that has anything to do with these socialite groups in Palm Beach, how it somehow is all about getting invited to Mar-a-Lago. Like,
Generally speaking, another thing, I mean, we've talked about this, but
yeah,
Canada isn't going to win any international prizes for its drivers. But Florida is like the next level, right? It's incredible. It's incredible. Been down here for a month and rear-ended twice.
I think it might have something to do with the demographic, right? Isn't the Keys the
Oh,
like the average age in the Keys? Like you're a young kid down there. They probably look at you
yeah.
as
No, no,
that
no, no. I mean, it's like
whippersnapper.
once you get, I mean, it's nice, right? It's like, you got dinner starts at 5:15, 5:30 for second seating. Good, good.
The early bird special at 3:45 if you're really hungry and you want to get to bed by 7:50.
Yeah, I mean, my wife's like, "It's 7:50. Why are you in bed?" I'm like, "It's dark out." Right? Like,
Well, dude, it's great to have you. I know we haven't gotten a chance to catch
yeah.
up professionally in quite some time. Obviously, you and I have been friends for a while and awaiting patiently the Blue Jays season to start and for you to come back so we can catch up and enjoy some Blue Jays baseball. But we've got bigger fish to fry today. Three things that I think we want to cover today. I want to cover the Barry Weiss destruction of CBS. I mean, I watched Kopel yesterday literally treat Ukraine like, hey, we don't know who started this war. I mean, it's just it's just unbelievable. I want to get to that. I want to get to Maduro. I want to get to Ukraine. But more importantly, I want to talk to you about something that you did an incredible 8-minute piece on yesterday at the Warning, which was the attempted erasure of January 6th. We're 5 years post January 6th, 5 years in a day. I watched the White House literally curate a narrative, a timeline, and a narrative that wasn't just a lie, it was a pathological lie, blaming Capitol Police for instigating and escalating January 6th, saying Donald Trump at 2:24 p.m. was the guy that was asking for people to calm down, and it wasn't his fault. This is the fault of Democrats and Capitol Police, clearly a lie. The plaque honoring the dead Capitol Police officers not only hasn't been put up, no one knows where it is today. It is the attempt to curate a reality, the attempt to curate a perception, and also the attempt to literally dance on the graves of law enforcement officers that kept Donald Trump and Donald Trump's sycophant GOP and the maggots that helped pursue January 6th and what the insurrection was, turn it into something that was a celebration of Donald Trump and never happened at all. And it is mind-boggling to me because like you and I sat there on January 6th. I remember documenting the whole thing, putting my computer down, going, I have never fucking seen this before. I'm watching people scale the walls of the Capitol building. I'm watching Capitol police officers get their asses kicked. I'm watching people take a shit in the rotunda. I'm watching guys put their feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk. I'm watching Ashley Babbitt get shot in the head. I'm watching people cower in the chamber. Jason Crow hiding people, including his Republican counterparts who are now trying to suggest January 6th didn't happen and Donald Trump has been wronged. Love your thoughts.
Well, we're going to talk about Barry Weiss a bunch, and um, I'll put her aside for a moment because what happened on CBS yesterday
Hmm.
was an obscenity.
Hmm.
What should have led the newscast on all over the network and been on the cover of every paper was the insanity released by the White House. Nazi level propaganda, plus, plus, plus.
Hmm.
Uh, When Goebbels delivered his most famous propaganda speech, the one that Stephen Miller alluded to with direct references through quotes at the Charlie Kirk fascist rally memorial service.
Hmm.
That speech was after the Allies had started bombing Germany in 1943. It was the total war speech. But
Yeah.
even Nazi propaganda was attached to some basic concepts, such as, hey, sun rises in the east and sets in the west. The absurdism of what the White House did can only be compared to one thing that's happened in our lifetime. And it's the moment where Baghdad Bob, during the invasion of Iraq, insisted the American forces were not at the airport with American tanks pictured rolling behind him. It's
Hmm.
the only thing. And I've talked about this for 11 years. The first time I told this story was on MSNBC 11 years ago. And I told the story of the end of 1984, where Winston, who's the protagonist of the book and is being tortured by the party of Bill O'Brien, is asked, how many fingers am I holding up? And in the book, Orwell tells the story. He says Winston sees four fingers. And he knows it's four fingers. But he breaks down under the torture. And the party official O'Brien ultimately says to him, now you understand. The right answer is however many fingers the party says. When Sean Spicer on the first day of the Trump presidency came out, people laughed about this. I did not. I told the Winston story again. And I made this point about lying. There's not a politician who doesn't lie. Most of those politicians tell lies of puffery. I graduated from Harvard isn't good enough for your average politician. It's got to be magna cum laude. It's got to be a little bit of puffery, or it's a lie of embarrassment. I didn't have sex with that woman. You understand why Bill Clinton said that.
Hmm.
That's not what Trump's lies are. They are lies of authority that demand obedience from his followers. And the power to insist the earth is flat, the sun rises in the west, and it sets in the east is an incredible one. We know what Donald Trump Jr. said on January 6th. He basically condemned his father. We know what Mitch McConnell said. He called it an insurrection.
Lindsey Graham.
We know what they all said. 5 years on, the coup rolls on. We have a fascist in the White House. There is no Trump derangement syndrome. And now we see the decimation of the rule of law in the United States following 2025, the beginning of 2026, with the conduct, the actions that could precipitate Armageddon, could start World War III. The talk of military adventurism in Greenland breaks NATO,
Mhm.
and it potentially puts NATO countries and American soldiers in direct conflict. We are at a moment in history that is the most dangerous since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Mm.
At the end of World War II, 1944, Canadian Prime Minister Mackenzie King was visiting Roosevelt in the White House. And Roosevelt and he talked about the world to come. And the world that came is remembered by historians as the American century. But the values that built prosperity across the world lifted more people more quickly from abject poverty, an unrivaled period of human potential being realized, a golden age, not a utopia, but a golden age. The UN, the collective security arrangements and agreements, the values based world that came out of the ashes of a war that killed 85 million people, precipitated by an aggressor who said might makes right. International gangsterism. Roosevelt said to his Canadian friend, the prime minister, nothing lasts forever. And he said it was his hope that this world he envisioned and did much to create and was stewarded by prime ministers and presidents from 1945 until Trump. It was his hope, he said, that it would endure for as long as the last of the people who were alive on the day the war was still won were still alive.
Mm.
And we are at the end of that era.
Mm. So, you bring up some unbelievable points, obviously, no era lasts forever. No empire lasts forever. Ask the Romans. I was in Italy this summer, spending a couple of weeks touring, ancient Forum and touring Syracuse and seeing these empires that had fought and died and cultures that had been assimilated and destroyed. And it's interesting because I've had not a change of heart, but I think about empire making in the last 100 years, this golden age of peace that we've had since World War II, really the last 85, 90 years. And everything is cyclical, right? Like we understand that through the lens of history that, democracy gets challenged, the real will of the people gets challenged, ideologies get challenged. And we are in a space where that challenge is coming from the most powerful nation in the world with terrible fucking intentions. And to do that, you have to be able to warp the reality of people, going back to what we just were talking about with Barry Weiss and CBS. And while I understand empire making, and I understand that maps change all the time, capitals change, boundaries change, borders change, and I get that. And I understand that the fight that we're getting ready to fight, I understand that fascism is at our doorstep here, not just in Canada, but when it comes to the world order that has kept peace by and large around the world for the last, post-war 90, 85, 90 years. But what I can't square, and maybe you can help me, Steve. What I don't seem to be able to wrap my head around, and I think a lot of people can't wrap their heads around this either, is the way that this regime is going about with their expansionist dreams, because everything's predicated on a lie. Everything is predicated on a lie. And to understand this regime, you have to understand that the president of the United States is a pathological liar who surrounded himself with pathological liars. But it's the disinterest in paying attention to or honoring any treaty, any agreement that has left this world safe for the past 80, 90 years. And when you talk to people like last night, I was on with Malcolm Nance and Jacob Carsbo, and we had a little bit of an intel special. And Malcolm literally walked me through what the United States military takeover plan of Greenland is. Civilian plane lands, about 100 Rangers come in, they take over the airport, they pick up everybody in Greenland that's involved in parliament, law enforcement, and it's now theirs. They run the American flag up the flagpole. That is the antithesis of what America has stood to be for people like me that are 52 years old and looked at the United States like it was sanctuary, to your point, like it was refuge for democracy, like they stood up for these marginalized countries and countries that didn't have the ability to protect themselves. And there was also a saw for the United States of America. They own the military space around Greenland, even though it's its own sovereign country. They can put as many military people in Greenland as they want. But that rhetoric is so anti-American at this point, and I know Donald Trump does not represent American values in any way, shape, or form right now. But for people like me that have grown up thinking the United States is going to protect Canada and protect the democratic interests of the free world, not only is that time gone, the scary part for people like us is here in Canada, we're preparing to go to war. You know, we've got a 300,000 person civilian army that Mark Carney is currently trying to train ad hoc. We've got another 65,000 military men and women that we're currently trying to recruit. Mark Carney is currently over in Paris with the Coalition of the Willing, made a big statement with Mette Frederiksen yesterday saying, we're going to stand with you and protect Greenland and Denmark. And for Canada to be at odds, even though Mark Carney's walking around with this relationship to Donald Trump that resembles a Fabergé egg on a sheet of ice, you know, it is such a mind fuck for so many of us, including myself, that you wonder, you question your own values and morals in times like these. You question your own reality in times like these. Like to your point, you know, the White House account of what they want everybody to believe happens or happened on January 6th, and to your point, is Goebbels level insanity. I'm going to read it to you. This is the kind of stuff that I fucking don't get. Call to action. This is on the White House website. President Trump invites Americans to D.C. It's not what he did. He invited a group of fucking Proud Boys and assholes to D.C.
Right, right. An
President Trump
insurrection.
invites patriotic Americans to Washington January 6th for a peaceful and historic protest against certifying the stolen 2020 election. That was at, I don't know, pre January 6th, 12 p.m. President Trump delivers a powerful speech where he encouraged everybody to go and fight. Patriots march to the Capitol. That's at 1 p.m. Capitol Police respond, escalates tensions. Lie after lie after lie. Canada's full of fentanyl. It's a lie. Maduro. Maduro is a drug trafficking narco terrorist. He might be a bad guy, but he is in no way, shape, or form the guy that he is being painted to be. I think the whole thing was staged, by the way. That's another conversation. And then the Ukraine shit, you know, watching Barry Weiss and her people at CBS go, hey, we're not sure who started the war in Ukraine. The warping of our reality, if you're not careful, Steve, and if, you know, thankfully I'm part of a group of people like you, and I've got friends like you, other people, I think we all kind of prop each other up. It's easy to see how Donald Trump could warp reality in 2026.
Donald Trump will lose these midterm elections in 2026. And I want to talk about the opposition for a second after we move through um the MAGA side of it, the viciousness, the insanity. Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Christy No, Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, together are smashing the rule of law and the republic that was built by George Washington, by John Adams, by Thomas Jefferson, by Ben Franklin. They're destroying Washington's creation.
Mhm.
They are smashing what was built by FDR, by Truman, by Churchill, by Marshall, by Eisenhower, preserved by John Kennedy, by Ronald Reagan, by Jimmy Carter, by Lyndon Johnson. They're smashing it to bits. And they are deranged extremists. When you look at the European leaders yesterday lined up,
Mhm.
uh, I was not surprised that the most feckless one spoke first, the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, who
He's soft,
showed
eh?
up at the Oval Office with his golden ticket for Trump.
Yeah.
So I'm going to carve Mark Carney out. You know how I feel about the Prime Minister. Right? He's a serious man. And he's the essential leader in the West right now. And I think we'll see how Chancellor Merz acquits himself. But he's a person with a difficult personality who treats a lot of people in his party with a high hand, and his support is thin in Germany inside of his coalition. So there's a lot of problems with all of those leaders. If you watch, and this is where my rage is, and I mean rage, it's not towards Trump and MAGA. Over 11 years' time, I've been, I think, as right as any person in a country of 350 million in predicting what's coming next. Right. And
Time after time, dude.
time after time after time, I have no expectation. They are precisely who and what I said they were. When I see Schumer and I see Hakeem Jeffries, what I see is Chamberlain and his umbrella and Deladier.
Mm.
Their news conference yesterday should have triggered an emergency caucus meeting where there was a vote for new leader. We're going to write a letter. Their weakness is endangering the lives of billions of people. I admire Elizabeth Warren, but but she is not meeting my expectations of what a brilliant person like her should do. They can talk all day long about being honest and how that's important and how dishonest Trump is. But the most important piece of honest conversation is this: the leaders of the Democratic Party in Washington are not up for this fight. They cannot communicate. They cannot organize. They cannot get a group of people together to go on the floor and denounce the adventurism. And what I think should happen is this: the chairman of the Democratic Governors Association should call an emergency meeting of the governors, and those governors should sign a series of interstate compacts, and they should call their legislatures into special emergency session all over the country and all the Democratic states on the same day to affirm the principles of the country. J.B. Pritzker has talked about state prosecutions for ICE agents, secret police in the future, and articulation of what will happen. The Democratic governors have to call, and through their state legislatures, for the Democrats in Congress to take action. What is it that they will do? What power are they asking the American people to give them in November to make this insanity stop? There are a lot of grifters and douchebags and pussies who are in the manosphere space. And I want to look through the green dot here at any young man that might happen to see this. What I'm interested in is protecting your life from the draft that will certainly come to fight in Trump's war for oil. We filled up Section 60 in Arlington National Cemetery with young Americans, and a lot of Canadians got killed too.
Mhm.
And a lot of Danes got killed too. And a lot of Brits got killed. A lot of our allied nations got killed. Soldiers got killed. The idea that we're going to send our soldiers to die for oil, I think about the corporate signage that Donald Trump has put up at the White House. Maybe we have a big Exxon sign at Section 61 in Arlington when we get ready to plant another generation of young American boys in their hearts and boxes and gardens of stone.
Mhm. You're uniquely situated to understand what's at play here, obviously being in the Bush administration. And I would love your thoughts, right? Because I watched Tammy Duckworth, who's great friends with the Save America movement, and Ken Harbaugh, talk about how she was one of the people that went to Iraq to go and get oil. That war was predicated on oil. All major wars the United States seems to have fought in the last 30, 40 years seem to have been centered on how America's oil got underneath their ground. Um, how is this different, and is it different than Iraq?
Iraq wasn't a war for oil. And that was always in my mind a slur. Iraq was a colossal misjudgment by a president who was unworldly, incurious, unread, not traveled well, who was certain. And I think any observer of George Bush over the last 20 years in his post presidency can pick up that he's developed a level of humility that he did not have when he was president.
Mhm,
But I was at the Dick Cheney funeral,
mhm,
and Dick Cheney was the best boss I ever had. You will not find a person in a 50-year career who worked for Dick Cheney to say a bad word about the man. At his funeral, he was remembered as that guy and as a nice grandpa, and that's true. When I went, to skiing competitions with my kids, I'd bring them. We'd have dinner with Cheney at a rib restaurant in Jackson Hole. I remember my daughter was young, and she says, "He was a nice grandpa." If any of this had succeeded, the Iraq adventure, I suspect it would have been talked about at the funeral. But there was nothing to talk about because the entire project failed, and it was one of the foremost disasters in the history of the country. And it opened the gateway to Donald Trump
mhm.
in a profound level. Um, I had this conversation with a friend yesterday about Maduro. And let's understand something. Pete Hegseth wasn't on the raid. The men who accomplished that raid are the tier one operators of the U.S. Army Delta Force. We have two groups that could carry that out: SEAL Team 6 and Delta Force. That's it. You have Task Force 160 or the pilots that bring them in. I asked a friend of mine. I said, if your wife went and cashed out all your money, all the investments, mortgaged the house, and put all the cash in a big duffel bag, brought it to Vegas, betted on black, and won, and came home and said, I got great news. This is what I did, and I doubled our money. I said, would you be happy with her? And my friend responded, I would not. I would not. I think my head would explode. And that's what Trump did. There is no more serious or sacred obligation for a commander in chief to put America's sons and daughters into harm's way. He risked their lives. 1,000 Americans, 180 aircraft. For what? To steal the oil? The people who are running Venezuela are either a revolutionary Marxist, the vice president, or a thug who's more extreme than Maduro and a colleague of his in the drug trafficking business. And by the way, when we talk about the lies, you can be drowned by lies because the volume of lies exceeds the ability to respond to them. But riddle me this: on the 1 month anniversary of our seizing the drug trafficking Maduro, what is it that we did? Oh, Trump pardoned the drug trafficking president of Honduras who was in a federal penitentiary. This is all of it madness.
Mhm.
Mad.
Ah, dude, yeah, well, and that in itself tells a story, like, if you wanna get to the nuts and the bolts, this is Noriega part 2, but it's even weirder than Noriega because what happened with Noriega, they went and got Noriega, but there was really a drug issue, you know?
Well,
There was a really
there was a drug issue. Noriega, if you recall, put out his machete, and
Yeah.
you had 3 Americans that were either brutally assaulted or killed
Mhm.
by security forces uh, that were stationed around the canal zone.
Mhm. 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 Yeah, the Noriega is the closest thing I can come to finding a precedent. In the Noriega thing, I mean, they had a reason to go in. They were protecting Americans. They were getting rid of one of the biggest narco terrorists. Whether or not Maduro is a real narco terrorist, whether or not he's part of this Lost Souls or Lost Kabbalah Souls gang that everybody talks about, which the DOJ then yesterday said no, that doesn't exist. We don't know what Trump's
I
talking
was,
about.
I was, I did a stint in Iraq. I was not in the military, but I had a political assignment that sent me there in the autumn of 2005,
Mhm.
which was not a great time. And I spent a fair amount of time outside the gates of the green zone with the American ambassador traveling and excuse me, Dean.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No problem.
Um and and 2 years after the invasion, right, this is very important for people to understand. Um there was a single highway that stretched from the airport, which was Camp Victory, to the Green Zone.
Mhm.
And 2 years after the invasion, a road through the desert was not secure. It was called Route Irish, the Highway of Death. So the wars that Trump is talking about will not be fought by special operators. It will be fought by regular soldiers. And those soldiers could not secure that road in 2 years' time in Iraq 20 years ago. There are limitations to American power.
Yeah.
And I just know this: the Trump boys won't be going, and none of the billionaire boys will be going. And the country should be outraged about this.
Mm.
He threatened to attack 6 different countries in a week.
Mm. Mhm.
And yet, the Democrats keep backing up in Washington. International leaders keep backing up, and MAGA keeps cheering. One of the things I said last year is very important. Donald Trump, his approval numbers are in decline. He is both every day less popular and more powerful.
Almost like he gets off on it. Like I watched, I don't know if you saw the GOP caucus speech that he did yesterday, which was pure and unadulterated insanity.
Psychotic.
Yeah, ridiculous. So the whole bing bing noises that he was making, talking about Melania, and then the weave, and then talking about dancing and how he literally arrested Maduro because he danced better and he wanted to dance like it was just. I had, again, confusing, but the guy is just a mess. Like 25th Amendment a year ago, it's wild to watch. But one of the things that struck me, specifically yesterday when I'm watching this whatever it was how everybody in the room laughed at him. Everybody thought, oh, like it was these nervous laughs and gasps and groans. Um, and to a man, if this is a TED talk, you're asking for your fucking money back, right? If that's your grandfather standing up in front of a room full of family members at Christmas, you're taking him to get assessed immediately after Christmas. It was that crazy. And then today he stands up to the stump, Steve, and he talks about how Venezuela somehow owes him and the United States of America for all the damage Venezuela has caused the American people and the American way of life. And, between the caucus insanity and then this insanity talking about, other people are going to get oil money. I'm going to get oil money. Venezuela's going to get oil money, but they need to give us the money because of what they've done to Americans. I shudder to think of anybody that takes him seriously, number one. But number two, this is the predicate for every single thing that he's talked about when it comes to invading a sovereign nation, kidnapping the fucking president of a sovereign nation. It always is drugs, it is always democracy, and it always ends up being oil, 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 oil. And the frustrating part that you're talking about here, or the part that makes you the angriest, are these men and women in uniform that come from across the United States of America with this pipe dream in their mind they're going to protect America. And somehow he's been able to package oil, oil, oil as the national security and the pride of the United States of America. And this is paramount to the security, the sovereignty, and the national security of America. It's in his national security strategy document, 25 pages of we own the fucking Western Hemisphere. This
We
is the
don't, though.
Monroe Doctrine that well, hang on, let me get to the end of this. I know you don't, but this is the reinterpretation, the rebranding of it as the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine was about keeping European interference out of the Western Hemisphere. This Monroe Doctrine is about taking whatever he can from anybody he can. And to your point, those six nations, Cuba, starting in Cuba, by the way, Canada's on the list, Greenland's on the list, Colombia's on the list, Mexico's on the list. Panama's on the list. There's your six. And he's still legitimately hot and bothered to go into those countries and do something effectively in those countries. What are your thoughts about his invocation of the Monroe Doctrine and the rebranding of the Monroe Doctrine as a sales tool? Because through all the insanity, Donald Trump's not bad at coming up with catchphrases and rebranding shit. Give the guy some fucking kudos. His marketing acumen is pretty incredible. But nobody seems to understand what these things mean. But he is asserting, as is the United States of America through Minnie Gobel's Stephen Miller, that we own the fucking Western Hemisphere.
I think you have to separate a whole bunch of different things here. The American people get this. His support is collapsing. It's collapsing. The polls tell us that.
Mhm.
We know that. We can see the election results. I can sit here and tell you right now, right? Anyone want to go on the prediction markets? You're about to have an entry into an Alaska Senate race. Democrats are in a position to take both the Senate and the House.
Mhm.
Okay. And that is going to happen. At the same time that he is losing popularity, he controls overwhelmingly the flow of information. It is constant. It is suffocating.
Mhm.
It is ubiquitous.
Growing too.
And it's disorienting.
Mhm.
What he is saying is gibberish. It's nonsense. It's insanity, but it's dangerous because he has the power to execute insanity because the Supreme Court, through Chief Justice Roberts, gave him the powers of a tyrant. The feckless Congress of Chuck Schumer has not used its power to stop him. I mean, Chuck Schumer was asked yesterday, do you regret your vote for Marco Rubio? He could not bring himself to say yes,
He
right?
really
And 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 so you have all these armchair field marshals, Tony DeCople, Jesse Waters, Will Kane on Fox News, all of them full of shit, all of them who would shit their pants if they had a rifle pointed at them, cheerleading the country into a level of military adventurism and threat that has not been seen in the world since Adolf Hitler.
Mhm. 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 What role is CBS playing right now? What happened at CBS? Cole's notes for a lot of different people that don't quite understand the media ecosystem, how Donald Trump is trying to roll up CBS. CBS was bought by Skydance and Larry Ellison, his son David Ellison. The two biggest contributions or donations that they make every year, one to Netanyahu and his Likud party. The other one is Donald Trump, deeply in the pockets of both Netanyahu and, of course, Donald Trump. They get a greenlit purchase to buy Skydance, buy CBS, and now all of a sudden we've got this conglomerate. At the same time, Donald Trump eases regulations as the United States buys TikTok and blesses the Ellison Group along with a couple of other people like Michael Dell from Dell Computers with ownership of TikTok as well. So if we are focusing on the Ellisons, Barry Weiss, CBS, you have social media wrapped up. And then, let's forget about Meta, Facebook, Zuckerberg, another Trump sycophant. Let's forget about Elon Musk, another Trump sycophant with Twitter. It's the co-opting of legitimate news brands that guys like Cronkite built, guys like Peralt built, able to sanewash or at the very least be able to convince the American people that what's going on isn't what's going on and it's good for them. But what role do you see, Steve? And I know you're incredibly disappointed in CBS. If you go to the warning, everybody hit that Chiron at the top. You can follow both Steve and I. Follow his content and his comments on Barry Weiss and what has happened to CBS and what Donald Trump has done to CBS. But where do you put what happened to CBS on your list of things that everybody needs to be aware of and information everybody needs to have?
All right. So let me start out in this, right, with agreeing with two people that you're going to be surprised to hear me agree with. One is Sean Spicer and the other is Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly is completely correct when she's basically like CBS is irrelevant. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter,
Yep.
right? She won't save it. It's going to collapse. It's all done. The point is not about CBS. It's about the totality of the ecosystem. And in that ecosystem, you have to recognize that everything that happened at CBS in the last year is the fruit of corrupt acts, starting with the sale of the Paramount Network to the Ellison boy by Sherry Redstone, which was made possible by her settling an absurdist lawsuit by Trump against 60 Minutes, which broke the back of CBS News. So
Mhm.
CBS News lost its credibility in that moment, never to be recovered. Trust is earned in drops and it is lost in buckets. So
Mhm.
it's gone. there are two kind of ways to look at Barry Weiss and all of this. One is through a sinister lens, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the other is through a preposterous lens. And
Mm,
that's where I want to start, right? What when they talk about, right, to save America, when they talk about um we are the We Love America Network,
mm.
CBS, right? Tony DeCote.
Yeah, that's the new
That would
branding.
that would seem to suggest that there must be a hate America network. And I'm going to take a guess at what network Barry Weiss thinks is the hate America network. Now, when it comes to the We Love America network, right? Right? I mean, is it really possible for Barry Weiss News to love America as much as Fox News? Right? No, right. So so they're at best, right, that we also love American Network, right? But
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out and say the hate American Network might be MS Now.
Mhm.
And who might be an anchor at MS Now but Tony DeCopel's wife? And I think that's beautiful.
Katie
That
Tur.
Mrs. DeCopel and Tony can sit down over coffee, the Love American Network and the Hate American Network, with their $1 million salaries as they join, excuse me, she's on the Hate American Network side. He's on the Love American Network side, and he's a great populist.
Yeah.
So he's denouncing the academy. Barry Weiss and Tiny DeCoop are products of elite private school educations, Ivy League degrees. These are the privileged and most elite people in the country. Barry Weiss was at the Bezos wedding. She's at the Allen and Company conference. What Barry Weiss's core skill is convincing self-loathing billionaire men that they're geniuses and that they're right. That's her skill. Now, I also want to talk about her through our lens. We talk about this over beers at a baseball game, and I'm just going to lay it out for for everyone who's my age. So whatever the birthday of the hell millennial is, right? The type of people that make people in my generation not want to fucking go into an office anymore and ever
Very
talk
uncomfortable.
to, right? Right? The participation trophy generation,
Yeah,
right?
the
Right.
victim
What
generation, I believe you
whatever
call it.
whatever the peak birthday of that generation is, I'm suspecting it's Barry Weiss's birthday. There it is. Right? You got you got the two worst millennials maybe in the country, these dishonest children of privilege.
Yeah.
The Ellison boy, he's never worked a day in his life, never had a bad 15 seconds, right? I'll tell you someday the conference call story I was on with him, right? He's telling the group of people on it about how he's a stunt pilot. You can't make it up, right? You cannot make it up.
Yeah.
They are preposterous people. Barry Weiss is the tribune of the common American. How many states has Barry Weiss been to?
7.
How many how many how many stories has she written on the free press platform about what's happening in Nebraska, about what's happening in Kansas
Yeah.
to the American farmer? And now this guy's going to get on a private jet, fly across the country, visiting Americans. It's all preposterous.
You know,
Preposterous,
fucking
right?
great word. Great word. I mean, just the idea that a substacker, right? She's a substacker. Barry Weiss has no zero experience producing television. Barry Weiss has zero C-suite experience. Barry Weiss has zero organizational experience. Barry Weiss has zero network experience. Barry Weiss, other than being a substacker and a journalist for a short period of time with a couple of dailies, is completely and totally 100% unqualified
Of
to be
course,
the CEO of CBS News.
with all that millennial arrogance, right? So she comes into that first like meeting and she's like, let's do the fucking news.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if you're Gail King or Robert Costa, right? Or
Anderson
Leslie
Cooper.
Stahl or sitting in that meeting. Let's do the fucking news. And then after she spikes the concentration camp story,
Yeah.
and the
See, got
timeline of that is important because Trump went out and said the old people were better than the new people, and the story spiked by the next day. And the reason that nobody who complained about the spiking of the story is going to be fired is because the discovery that would go on in the wrongful termination suit will show quite clearly the number of phone calls that went down between David Ellison and Barry Weiss between Friday when Trump said that and when the story was spiked. Because millennials can't help themselves but to stay off the email. Even if you're like Barry, you got to stay off the email with David. They can't help themselves. She lacks the discipline. So there's already a record of evidence. Military fighter jet flying up the coast.
oh, it's starting already.
Big bombing Bermuda or Nassau. Bombing.
Cuba, if you're listening, heads up.
Not going. That plane is not heading towards Cuba. It is heading towards Nassau.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay.
you're
Maybe they take out Atlantis today.
if you're in the Bahamas, duck. Apparently, Chinese investment company that owns the Atlantis. At any rate, at any rate, uh, Barry Weiss yesterday, the technical flubs of the program, all of that notwithstanding. What's the CBS Evening News yesterday? They go on a ride along with Ice Barbie, a deranged mental patient and liar, right? And they fetishize the abuse of the human beings. And Barry Weiss is a Jew,
Hmm.
right? Barry
Hmm.
Weiss is a Jew.
Hmm.
Are you kidding me? Right?
Nope.
Al Franken, Al Franken. I always remember when Al Franken said this to me was he said, my dad looked at me. He said, we're during the civil rights movement, blacks were being beaten. He said, Al, we're Jews. We can't be for this. Right? I'm looking out at the Atlantic Ocean right now where the ship the St. Louis sailed up this coast, followed by Coast Guard ships as the Jews were jumping off, trying to commit suicide. They'd be picked up and put back on board.
Mm.
Ship of despair, right? That's what she's fetishizing. And then at the end of this, on a week where the United States has threatened to go to war against 6 countries, they made a joke about it
Mhm.
with what she calls a bonbon on Marco Rubio, their bonbon section,
Mhm.
where Marco Rubio has so many jobs. He's the Secretary of State. He's the National Security Advisor. He's the archivist. Maybe he'll be Prime Minister of Greenland. Maybe he'll be Viceroy of Venezuela. It's really funny. It's really funny. So what she is a propagandist. She's a Leni Riefenstahl.
Ooh.
She is a fellow traveler of American fascism.
Mhm.
She is a handmaiden to evil. And that evil was manifested with perfect clarity by Stephen Miller in an interview with Jake Tapper that I recommend everybody watch. And I think Jake Tapper, who's left speechless in this, and he should appreciate that his colleague is Stephen is what's that dipshit's name? Who used to work for Mitch McConnell, their CNN guy. He worked in the Bush White House. Who's their guy on the show there?
Scott Jennings?
Scott Jennings,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
What a
Right. So
fucking weasel that guy is.
Jake Tapper's colleague, Scott Jennings. You watch Jake Tapper, right? You watch Jake Tapper sitting there, and you can see the light starting to shine above his head. Right? You can see in his eyes. Well, holy fuck. I just figured out what this guy is.
Hmm.
He's a real deal Nazi,
He's an actual Nazi.
right? He's an actual Nazi, right? And you could see it. And you'll never see an interview on a network where the anchor is as completely flummoxed. Got nothing to say. Startled because he realizes the danger.
He ended the interview.
So
Hmm.
so at this moment, um, I think it's important to, we have a winter Olympic. Excuse me, we have a summer Olympics in Los Angeles, right? Um, Countries should boycott these Olympics, right? And I suspect we'll see more of that as it goes on. If you're a Canadian, you're a European, stay away from the World Cup in this country. If you care about the American people and you care about the safety of your citizens, every single person in the world who believes in the concepts of liberty and freedom, we need their help in the United States right now.
Hmm.
We need you to stand with us. When the United States was born, uh, one of our fathers was a Frenchman, Gilbert du Montaigne. History remembers him as the Marquis de Lafayette. Lafayette, in command of troops at Yorktown, as the white flag goes up, proclaims, humanity has its victory. Liberty has its country.
Mm.
And he predicted that the country he had helped create would save the world, that the new world would save the old. And it did. And those ideas that were thoroughly American spread around the world, including even into the American South. And over time, the high ideals of our nation, our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence came closer to being. And the democracy that deeply rooted itself in Europe after the Second World War, in Germany, in Spain, in France, those values are alive and flourishing. And they don't exist just in the United States. And they have spread too far and rooted too deeply to be pulled up. But we're going to have to fight for them.
Mhm.
And we're going to have to fight for them with determination, peaceful protest, all manner of civil disobedience. And one of the great dramas in the history of free peoples is now underway at the quarter point into the 21st century. Donald Trump has become something very, very, very dark and dangerous. He's a man of no character, surrounded by sycophants, surrounded by lemmings, encircled by a court of takers who want more, 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 and more. And we stand at a fork in the road.
Mm.
We're either going to get real and stop it, or we're going to all lose something terrible. And if you're an American, you're a Democrat. I'm so sick and tired of indulging feckless men who have been unable to do their jobs. And the standards and the expectations of the Democratic leaders need to increase.
Mm.
I- Hakeem Jeffries is not going to keep us safe. Neither's Chuck Schumer. And so the number one problem we have in the country right now isn't Trump's aggression. It's the weakness of the people who are in leadership positions who should be doing everything they can to stop it.
Lack of
And
optional leadership. Yeah.
I also I also want to say one last thing I think that's important. The good Lord sent a Republican insurrectionist to hell yesterday named Doug LaMalfa, a congressman from Northern California,
Feel like we need organ music for this.
thus reducing the Republican majority to 217 to 213 with the resignation of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Mhm.
You have Thomas Massey, who may be Trump's greatest enemy in the Republican Party, who's not a faithful vote. So let's take the majority down to 216 to 213. 3 seats.
Mhm.
3 seats. Right? If there's a Democratic billionaire out there, right, what they should be doing is call. And by the way, right, you got Elon Musk who's going to spend $500 million on the campaign, and Peter Thiel. Where are the people, including J.B. Pritzker, who has billions,
With their fucking
to open their
checkbooks.
wallets?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you with Nancy Mace, and this is the mentality that should be going on. Hey, Nancy. And my position is the people of South Carolina deserve Crazy Nancy as their governor. In fact, I would vote for her to be governor of South Carolina for life, right? A 50-year sentence for the state, right? Punishment for the Civil War and Lincoln Grant, right? But what somebody should say to Nancy Mace
Yeah.
is, "We have $2 million for you." And I don't give a shit who the governor of South Carolina is. I mean it, right? It's not a state that the Democrats can win, right? They deserve Nancy Mace. Let them have it. Right? But what someone should say to Nancy Mace is, "We'll fund your campaign, Nancy, but you can't be a part-time candidate. You got to resign from Congress." Brings it down to 2. And then people have to start offering jobs because every Democrat and every Republican up there shares one thing in common. They know there will be elections and the Democrats will be in the majority. And so this is the Titanic strategy. The people who got into the lifeboat early, on the early hours of April the 15th, went on to lead long and happy lives. The people who did not were picked up frozen for months afterwards, and a lot of them are buried in Halifax at a cemetery that we've both
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And so you have 2 Republicans. Start with the biggest losers and give them the most exciting job opportunities that you could imagine. Would you like to sail around the world on a boat for $2 million a year?
Miss
Photograph
Green?
dolphins? I don't give a shit. Get them out. Get the number down. Get the number down. And then here's a question. Would the Democratic minority vote all of them, from the left to the right, to make Massey the speaker? because the second Mike Johnson is gone and Democrat controls, it's like putting the chest panels on a cardiac patient with no pulse. We can bring the Congress back to life. Toppling MAGA requires imagination, daring, audacity. And the goal is not to help individual men and women achieve their career ambitions for political office. I mean, you got a guy like an Andrew Cuomo who's talking about he may have another comeback. I mean, really, what's wrong with him? He should be in a psychiatric
Did he
institution.
really? Even after getting squashed by
Yeah,
Mandami, he's like, I still got I got some fuel in the political tank, guys. Don't
right,
worry.
right. And
That's unbelievable.
and um and there it is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the opposition is weak,
Mhm.
and that's why the fascism is powerful.
Mm. Well said. You know, it's funny because it's something that my very good friend Lev Parnas talks about quite a bit. Is you know what? It's Donald Trump is Donald Trump, but he's only Donald Trump because there's no one on the other side that's even half as appealing as Donald Trump. There's no one on the other side that has the stones to do what's right. There's no one on the other side that's willing to, you know, engage in what Trumpism and MAGA is, but for Democrats and for people that are progressive that want to save the soul of America, which is something that you and the steering committee at Save America and the Save America movement have been doing for some time now. And I know baby steps, but we still have 3 years of this. How can people get involved in saving America with the Save America movement, Steve?
Well, you can go saveamerica.org.
Hmm.
Look for the SAM website. And contribute, get involved, join the cause. We're going to be involved in 35 races with great candidates. We're engaged in opposition activity, and the most important thing is we have to frame what the stakes are.
Hmm.
The American Revolution, the people who fought it called it the cause, and the cause is enduring
Hmm.
because the cause is freedom, and half of all Americans who've ever lived are alive right now.
Hmm.
And so we have separated ourselves, cleaved ourselves down the middle for all the Americans that have ever lived versus those that exist today. And those that exist today have no claim on connection to those Americans who, for 250 years, preserved liberty. As this cohort of Americans, through a lot of indifference, seem willing to discard it for things. So, again, when you think about Barry Weiss, the idea that her threat level is so high that she needs 5 heavily armed security guards driving her around Manhattan like she's a head of
He
state.
digs it though, dude. He loves
Right?
it. He
Oh
loves
my
the
God.
show.
I'm telling you, it is the hell millennial. It's the hell millennial. I remember, and this last thing I'll say as we go over. This is Barry Weiss.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
got a call. I got a call when I was running the McCain campaign. I was 37. And it was these two parents called, and they both worked, one of them worked for ABC News Network.
Hmm.
And it was basically a threatening phone call about Junior's lack of status in the campaign. And back at that time, right, if you recall the age, right, that was a thing, right? That was like in the news, like, hey, like, like people who were like 30 in their 30s and their 40s that were getting called by the parents of 21, 22-year olds, right? You had parents calling college professors, and this was a unique new sociological thing, right? The baby boomers didn't tolerate this shit,
Hmm.
right? Um, they didn't tolerate. And that's who Barry Weiss is. That's
Hmm.
who David Ellison is. These are silly children,
Mm.
right? Great victim, Barry Weiss.
Oh yeah.
Persecuted Barry.
Poor Barry. Poor
Poor
Barry.
Barry.
Poor Allison family. Poor Tom.
Barry.
Poor
Poor David.
Poor David Sachs. Poor
Right?
everybody. Yeah. Well, and
And
that's the beautiful part. That's the beautiful part of this, not just millennials, but MAGA too. I've never seen a bigger group of fucking victims. Like, every time Donald Trump opens up his mouth about late night TV, he's like, it's always anti-Trump. Nobody likes Trump. 90% against Trump. And the end result is cancellation. The end result is the co-opting of the FCC. And a great place to wrap up. Guys, listen, thank you for joining us today. This has
uh,
been incredible to be able to kind of touch base with my good buddy Steve, Save America.
we're going to be doing it every
Just,
week, Dean. We're
dude,
doing
are
it.
we doing this? Is this a weekly now? Are we going to bang away
We're
every
we're
Wednesday?
going to do it as a weekly. We're gonna we basically the announcement, I guess, would be we together have overcome our attention deficit disorder by empowering someone who will organize us sufficiently to be able to do this
You mean
together
you mean your wife?
and be able to talk about some Blue Jays baseball,
Yeah, yeah, coming up.
um, and acclimate everybody to next year's World Series champions early in the season,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and all of that. But listen, last thing, um, if you want to feel better, everybody go and read the Gettysburg Address and go and read Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural. Um, I have a hard time with faith. My inclination is towards pessimism. I come from Black Irish stock that don't necessarily look towards the sunrise, but rather the sunset. And the one thing I know for sure is that in the end, Stephen Miller's children will deny that Katie and Stephen Miller are their parents. They will repudiate them. And Stephen Miller won't be able to live on a military base for all the rest of his life. They're going to have to live amongst us, the American people, who they have attacked and assaulted and demeaned. And they
Defamed.
will have to account for their crimes and their vandalisms of the Constitution. And the American people have a long history of letting the rope out and dithering. Churchill, maybe the keenest foreign observer there's ever been of the American character, said that the Americans, in the end, will do the right thing, but will always wait until the last possible second to do it. And there's a lot of truth to that. And so
Mm-hmm.
the fight goes on. It is a fight that we must not lose. And it's not an American fight. It's a fight for peace in the world. It's a fight for the highest and most noble ideals of humanity. All of it threatened by the most unworthy of men, Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Well said, brother. The warning, Steve Schmidt, ladies and gentlemen. If you see the Chiron at the top, it's gray. Hit it. You'll immediately be subscribed to Steve. He needs no introduction. He is one of America's greatest strategists. He is one of America's greatest historians. He is one of America's greatest warriors for democracy. And a pleasure to call you my friend, Steve. Great to see you today. Go enjoy that Fort Lauderdale sunshine.
Bear.
No, you're in the Keys, right? Go catch a tarpon.
I just watched the tarpon jump,
Did you right now?
but the shark-filled and crocodile-filled canal will keep me from getting him with my hands.
If anybody can do it, it's you. Thanks, Steve. I'll talk to you soon,
It's
brother.
fine.
All right, there you go. Steve Schmidt, ladies and gentlemen. The warning is where you can find him here on Substack at Steve Schmidt as well. Always great to catch up with him. And why is it great to catch up with him? He's the OG of this conversation. You've seen both sides of it. And I've gotten to know Steve over the past year or so and being involved. And I'm sure we'll be making some announcements here in the next, couple weeks to a month or so. Being involved with the good people at the Save America movement. Go to saveamerica.org and donate. See how you can get involved. There's a ton of content, how you can educate yourself there about your rights, about America's rights, and about what Donald Trump is to the United States of America, which is what Hitler was to Germany, which is what Putin is to the people of Russia. in the revisionist history. We need people that are willing to take account. We need people that are willing to put themselves in harm's way and educate people. I mean, that's one of the most important things here. So, Save America and the Save America movement does that. I trust these people, whether it's people like Dr. Angela Rasmussen, who we do health talk. We're going to be doing one tonight from the Save America Movement Steering Committee talking about health, pandemic science, and the truth, whether it's Steve, whether it's Ken Harbaugh. There are a group of Americans, Canadians, Europeans who are fastly finding each other because, as Steve pointed out, beating Trump in the United States is of the utmost importance because it has flowered into a movement that protects, that promotes, and that enriches the world's worst people. Governments that are run by criminal enterprise that have imagined to find themselves a way to get into power. Trump, Putin, Orban in Turkey, or sorry, Orban in Hungary. These are all criminal mobsters that worked their way, watch Peaky Blinders, that worked their way into politics, that worked their way into a position to be able to control. And I think a lot of people don't understand what makes good dictator a good dictator. By good dictator, I mean, the attrition of a dictator, someone that's able to corral and shoehorn an entire country and turn it on its ass and have it become a fascist nation like we're watching in the United States. It is the control above ground and below ground. Donald Trump is going after the drug trade because he wants to control the underground. He wants to control the criminal drug aspects of the United States of America. That is exactly what Vladimir Putin did and how he has an iron grip. That is what the former president Duterte of the Philippines did. He's in The Hague. Let's hope that ends same way for Donald Trump. But thanks to Steve for stopping in. Everybody give Steve a follow. He's like I said, he's the OG of Substack, OG of these conversations. And it is very, very important to keep your eyes on the prize. I saw my friend Lev here in the chat, Lev Parnas. He's right. There's another thing that'll end this whole nightmare, and that's the Epstein files. Epstein files, Epstein files. Thomas Massey said this yesterday. They've released less than 1% of what is available in the Epstein files. They are in direct contradiction and direct violation of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Do not stop. Keep going. Keep calling your congressman. Keep calling your senator. Keep begging for transparency. This is something that even the QAnon shaman wants. Saw an interview with Donnie O'Sullivan. Great guy from CNN. He's driving around with a QAnon shaman, and I'll leave you with this. It's like, would you vote for Donald Trump? He's like, no. I thought you knew that. This is the QAnon shaman. This is the guy that was going to go to jail for the rest of his life, that was wearing the big furry water buffalo hat and the staff and the painted chest and face, that ran into Congress screaming and yelling, literally taking stuff of the Congress dais. Like, Donnie O'Sullivan's like, would you vote for Trump? He goes, no, never. I thought you'd know that. He hasn't released the Epstein file. So if you want to get on side with something that will sink this man's boat, Epstein files, Epstein files, Epstein files. Have a great day, everybody. Want to thank everybody for joining us today. Paid subs get us to the top of the algorithm. As always, if you could see your way to getting a monthly, yearly, or founding membership, it keeps us in business and is an honor to be in your life. And paid content here is one of the most important things to someone who does what we do. Because not only does it get that information out to a wider group of people, it also gets this information to the top of the algorithm. We've got monthly, yearly, right now, special 25% off unlimited access. Lock that price in for life. You never pay more than I think it's like $60 a month or something, or $60 for the year. I can't remember. It's inconsequentially cheap because we want you to be in on the relationship. We want you to be part of the resistance. We want you to be in our lives, and we want you to be in our lives. Gives you a chance to chat, gives you a chance to ask questions, gives you a chance to come and talk to us as well in different podcast substacks like Coffee and Tea with Lev and Dean, which we do every single Saturday morning, where we actually have co-hosts from Substack that will come on with us. So that's what your paid membership gets you. Our content is free. I'm a terrible capitalist. I don't paywall anything. It's just not how I think we should be doing business today. So if it's helpful and you find it helpful, you appreciate what we do today, give Steve a paid follow. If you can give us a paid sub, that would be absolutely lovely. And if not, we're just grateful that you share this. More importantly, more than anything, hit that heart, hammer that square with your little arrow, and send it to as many people as humanly possible. And don't forget, we're all in this together. Canada, America, fuck, even the people of Venezuela, minus Maduro. we're all in this together. So we go forward. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you at 3 o'clock with Zev and the 5 stack. Bye, guys. Take care.